Spider-Man Miles Morales is a fun game, but that doesn't mean it didn't have its issues. Though there are a lot of things I do like about this game, there's not much that really stuck out to me, or anything I thought was better than Marvel's Spider-Man 1. First thing I'll be going over is the story, and spoiler alert, I think it's pretty weak and forgettable. First I want to talk about how the villains in this story are pretty bad and the weakest parts. I did though like that Uncle Aaron was introduced as the Prowler, obviously, but wasn't really the main villain. I think it was cool that going into a Miles Morales story, you expected Prowler to be the main villain by default. Yes, there is conflict with Aaron, but it's a bit of nice subverting of the expectations. But that leads to a problem, being that the main villain was really bad in my opinion. Finn as a Tinker was not really intimidating. And I don't think that that's due to enough character development. I think it just comes down to poor character development. We get the whole thing with her brother Rick, but she never actually seems scary. Even Miles was never worried about her being powerful or an actual threat. Now I know Miles technically wanted to redeem and not hurt Finn, but for some reason it just didn't work that way. There's a lot of redemption stories now and things, but it doesn't really work here. I honestly can't explain to you why, it just didn't feel right. The Rhino fights were fun and a bit challenging, and he did serve as a cool little side villain. But also that Roxxon guy was really bad, and I don't even remember his name. But all he did was literally give a couple of funny jokes that honestly didn't make me laugh at all. He was underdeveloped, and honestly, I bet I'll forget that he was in the game. But villains aside, my biggest problem with this story is how they shoved Peter Parker away. I was really disappointed how, even though this is Miles' story, Peter gets zero character development and basically no screen time. I was hoping for Peter to be a mentor to Miles and sort of play the role that Tony Stark played for Peter in the MCU. I also think it was very unlike Peter to just listen to Miles when he was told to stay on vacation. If even just a robbery went down in New York while Peter was gone, I think he would have literally went back and did anything to protect the city. Especially when there's a corporation and a gang fighting and a literal bomb in Harlem, or whatever the hell that was, that could literally kill so many. Peter deserved better, and I was very disappointed that he got, honestly, nothing. Even though, yes, I do know this is Miles' story, Miles got so much development in Peter's story. So I think it's really only fair that they could have kind of given Peter a little more leg room and kind of made him a little more developed. I mean, yeah, I get it, but I don't know, I just don't think it worked. The story itself is weak, and that's due to poorly developed characters and a half-baked script. I didn't really ever feel like I had to know what was happening next, or that I really needed to play the next mission. I remember when I was playing the original Spider-Man, and my friends would be like, yo, hop on Overwatch or Call of Duty, whatever I was playing at the time. I'd be like, no, I have to play this. I have to finish it. I need to find out what happens next. That's just because the story was so intriguing. But, that didn't really happen with this game. But I do have to say, that doesn't stop the gameplay from being amazing, and honestly even better than the first. The gameplay in this game takes everything from the original game and puts a Miles Morales twist on it, which in my opinion makes it so much better. I love the combat to death in the first game, and the combat in this game blew me away. You can tell all the creativity for this game went into the combat, and definitely not the story. Everything from the original is here with the addition of more, so you're not losing anything, you're only gaining. Swinging and New York looks beautiful, and is just as fun as the first game. I still can swing around mindlessly from time to time, even when I have a mission or something to do, and still just have fun, doing cool little dive combos, or listening to the podcast, or whatever J. Jonah Jameson is doing, or that new girl that they had, or being on a phone call. It's just fun to swing around, and, just have fun swinging around the city. Also to just look around sometimes, and look into the little windows of the building, and you can see that they literally make like little houses in these buildings. It's amazing how much work they put in both games to the city. But when it comes down to three new things in the combat that I really, really loved, is the new Venom Bar, the camouflage system, and the new combo finisher system. I loved all of these, and they really allowed you to play how you wanted to play. I like the new finisher system because I wanted to never use the finisher in the original game, because it took away from the heal bar. The Venom abilities are unique, and really do make combat more fun. I like how they have a different button combinations, so you can use different moves against certain enemies. For example, with like L1 and triangle, you do the dash, and then you do the punch, and then the dive. It was all cool, and it was really all nice to have. The stealth in this game is really fun, and I like how you don't necessarily have to use it. You can take the button mash approach and play your own style to win the battles. Or, on the other hand, you can use the camouflage to go back into the stealth playstyle, if you get caught. It's nice how the game allows the player to kind of choose how they want to win. And it doesn't really restrict you to a certain part where this is stealth, or this is combat, like button mashing combat. As though I do not like that it's only Miles gameplay, I do like how they take out all those crappy stealth missions that weren't Spider-Man. Like those Mary Jane levels and the Miles levels in the first game were incredibly boring and were so easy to trick. But the puzzle missions and all the side quests on the map for like 100% completion and all the tokens and whatnot are boring, and they're not as good as the original. For example, the Prowler Challenge, where you have to detect sound and complete the mixtape, is not only boring, but really tedious, and honestly takes me out of it. I was so annoyed when I had to do it in the main story. Like, it took me a while. I know it shouldn't have taken me that long, but it was just, I'd rather do the Doc Ock puzzles, or even just chase birds. Like, the first game made chasing birds around New York fun. Something else I'd like to briefly mention is the photo mode, and how it's still here and fun. Sometimes when I'd find cool things like Avengers Tower, or be in the middle of a finisher sequence, I would pull out photo mode and just take a cool picture. It didn't hurt, it was fun, and I like how if you click pause, it just stops. There's no time where you can't pause it to take out photo mode, and that's my favorite part. And obviously it's not really that different from the original, but I'm still going to compliment it when it's there. That the suits in this game are really, really well designed and really, really creative. Like that Prowler suit with Spider-Man and even the Bodega Cat suit. They're all really fun, and they actually kind of add a little bit. You know, it puts more emotion kind of into the side missions and to the character that we are. And it makes Miles not really feel so one-sided as he kind of does in the plot. So I think that the suits are really good in this game, but maybe not as good as the first one. Obviously, everything in this game is completely different because it has that Miles Morales twist, so you can't really compare Peter Parker Spider-Man suits to Miles Morales Spider-Man suits. But I did think that they were very, very good, and I would give that another up for the game. But all in all, this game doesn't feel like a sequel at all, just more of a side story or a really, really good and developed DLC. But that's not saying much. It doesn't really work as a main story, but I think it does work as a little side quest for Miles and his character development. I don't really think that it should have been a main game, honestly, or they should have did it after the Spider-Man sequel, like the actual Spider-Man sequel. They name drop the demons once in a while, but this feels completely separated and only there to kind of remind you, like, remember that first game? Yeah, this is still the same universe. But even though, yeah, it's there for only that reason, but it doesn't really feel like it's supposed to be. It kind of feels forced. And then the only other thing that really tied in with the main story of, like, the first game was the end credit scene. I'm just mad that the Harry Osborn Venom plot that was introduced at the end of Spider-Man has to wait probably another 2 years to finally come into full fruition. That's disappointing because I was really excited to see how that would unfold, and now I have to wait another 2 years for it. It's disappointing, but it's still alright. It was a fun game. To rank this, I would have to give it a 6 or 7 out of 10. It was alright, and if you're curious, I would probably give the first Marvel Spider-Man a 10 out of 10. Honestly, I know it sounds dumb, it did have its problems, and obviously, I can find spots like combat where this game actually kind of extends on it and makes it a little better. But it was just so good for the time, and honestly, I loved every second of it. But with this game, I don't know, the story just really takes you out of it. It does improve on many factors, but it has a forgettable story that drags the whole game down. But that's really about it. It was alright. If you want to know if I recommend it, I do. It's fun. If you like the first one, you'll like this one, and that's really about that. It's alright. it was fun, but the only thing that makes me mad really about it is the fact that they kind of shoved Peter off and that I have to wait another 2 years to finally see the true Venom. Alright, peace out.